This is Dr. Ruben Chen, and welcome to the Vital Signs Podcast. Hi, this is Dr. Ruben Chen. Welcome to another Vital Signs Podcast. I have a very special guest with us today. Before we get started, I want to do a shout out to Sunrider International. If you guys don't know, Vital Signs Podcast is brought to you by Sunrider International. It is the best kept secret. They have the best herbal health food products on the market. Everything from herbal teas, even herbal shampoo and herbal toothpaste. They are amazing. You can purchase the products online, and Rishi's drinking some of our Fortune Delight right there as well. So it is awesome, and it's great for all kinds of people, all natural products. Check them out at www.sunrider.com. All right, so our guest here today is Sabrina, and she has a great wealth of experience about yoga and about health. And but before we get started, I just want, Sabrina, if you can give us a little background, where you're from, and how you got into what you do now.
So first of all, I want to say thank you so much, Dr. Ruben, for the invitation. And I'm super glad to be sharing a little bit of my experience with your audience. And I'm from Brazil, originally from Rio de Janeiro. And I've been in Los Angeles for the last 15 years. I came here as an immigrant with my daughter, my first child. Which is my biggest inspiration in my life for everything that I for my journey and for everything that I active in my life. Wow. And I started to practice yoga. Let's talk a little bit about yoga. In my 20s, 20 years, almost like 20 years ago. In my early 20s, and I fell in love with the practice, but I was not like this consistent as I became when I moved down to Los Angeles. The practice of yoga helped me a lot in the transition as a immigrant, like letting go with the things that I had in Brazil, restarting my life with my daughter in a different country, and connected me with a really nice community, health and very open mind community. So I felt embraced, accepted for the community. And then from there, I started to study yoga and became a yoga instructor. But it was a long process. I didn't start since I started practicing here. Took me a little longer to click and be like, okay, I'm gonna study this. I think the first thoughts that I had was, I want to learn a little bit more, go deep in my own practice. But then I started to fall in love to be in the ambience, to be sharing things with others. And I took 300 hours. I took like 500 hours of teacher training here in LA. And I started to teach in some studios and gyms in LA. So,
wow. So, okay, I'm just going to get this out of the way.
Okay.
You have a child, you've been here for 15 years, so your child is quite old. You look amazing. Okay, so whatever that yoga you're doing, it is definitely doing well for you. I thought you said you came here as like a young child, but the fact that you came here and you had a child, that is.
I had a child.
Wow, that's amazing. So you look great.
Thank you.
So so you didn't do yoga in Brazil. You started it, or did you start it in Brazil?
I started in Brazil, but on and off, not consistent, and with the same discipline that I do in Los Angeles, and I started in Los Angeles in my early 20s. And then my background in Brazil is law school. I took law school in Brazil.
Is law school? So you're a lawyer?
Yeah, I'm a lawyer in Brazil.
All right. Wow.
But you know, like all these choices and I made in Brazil, they were connected with my early pregnancy. I had my first child when I was very young. I was 16 years old. That's why it's a crazy and very unconventional story. But then I embraced the situation. Was really hard for me because I had on that time I had to fight against my family to keep the baby, to have my baby. And then I had my baby, we grew up together. And when I moved down to LA, everybody thought, oh, you're crazy, you're not going to take your daughter. And I thought, you know, like it's me and my daughter, it's my life. And then we moved down here. And I started to work with translation, doing things like as an immigrant to survivor with my daughter. And as I was raising a girl, I was always thinking like, I don't want to be just a survivor in Los Angeles. I want to find myself here. And then I started to study yoga, and I started to teach yoga for the community. And it was so funny because at the beginning, when I was taking my teacher training, I remember a lot of people in my teacher training saying like, oh, you're going to teach for Brazilian communities or for Spanish? And I was like, no, I want to teach here.
For everybody.
Oh, but it's going to be real. Yeah. But then everybody was always telling me like, oh, it's going to be really hard for you because of your accent or because you're not from here, because it's a very competitive market. And I put in my mind, I set my mind for, you know, that's what I want. I want to prove to myself that I can do something nice here. And I want to show my daughter then everything is possible when you put all your energy in something, and when you really want to do something. So it's all about resilience. What I think is like, it's all about resilience, courage, and discipline, and of course faith. We have to have faith in everything we do. So that's how my yogi career started in Los Angeles.
So becoming a yogi, an instructor, was partly for you to be able to almost start a new life. Does that sound right?
Yes, a new life, and I found my voice here. I could start to share my thoughts and even like my unconventional experience, and I could show people that everything is possible when you have like positive thoughts and when you have a positive energy. So I think this was something that makes me become a little bit well known in the market, and make my students connected with me, because I think when people see me, they, oh my gosh, here comes Sabrina, super excited and with all this, and super alive and excited with all the yoga things. But behind of me, that is a very strong story. And I could share this with people and show them that everything is possible when you have a good heart and purpose in life. That's what I think.
So why did you choose to come to United States, specifically Los Angeles? What did you do that from Brazil? I mean, that's a big, when you're talking about changes, sometimes people get a haircut as a change. You like changed everything. So why did you choose to come to the United States?
I visit Los Angeles a few times, and other places in the US. And I always had in my mind, because I'm from Rio, and I think when I came to California, I was like, this reminds me Rio, but in a different word. So I always had in my mind, and if I move from Rio, would be in California. I always had this in my mind. But then I thought this will never gonna be possible for me, because I had a child, because so many responsibilities in Brazil. But then after a breakup, a divorce, I thought, now I think it's a good time maybe to get out of Rio just for a year. At the beginning, I was like just for 6 months. And then I moved down here with my daughter, and crazy story, short story. Let me try to make this short.
Yeah.
I was married in Brazil, but then I got the green card in a very easy way with my ex-husband. He just got the green card here, and he transferred the documents for me and for my daughter. And then this was the change. I never thought I would be here for so long. I thought I would be here for a while and learning English and be in a different place and open my mind a little bit and know people and offer my daughter opportunity to live abroad. But then becomes my life.
Wow. So that by itself is an amazing story. You started from not even speaking the language to having your own business to
Yeah.
being well known in a community that you didn't really have any connection to, maybe a little bit, but you basically transformed
Yeah.
yourself completely here.
Yeah, was a huge transformation for me. But at the same time, what I think it's funny was a huge transformation, but at the same time was a really deep connection with my inner self, with who I discover more about myself. It was not just like a transformation, it was like make a connection with my inner self, become like authentic, become who I really am.
Yeah.
So
How did you
that's
become
how
so positive? Because this is, I mean,
I
I'm a strong believer in positive energy, but you sound
Mhm.
like you're a master of it. So how did you, because you're divorced, you're starting a new life, you are trying
Single
to live in a new
mom for a
country that you
while.
don't speak the language, doing something that you have never done before. It's, how, how did you get that sort of inner drive to push yourself like that?
I think it become positive. It was something that I was always very positive about life. Even in my hard times, I always thought I have to learn something from here. That's why this happened. I never thought like, oh, this happened because it's done for me. And I always have a lot of resilience. I was like, this happened, but then let's make this something that's gonna make me stronger and let me try other things. As I always teach to my daughter, I think we can, yeah, everything in life it depends of the way we see things and not the way the things come to us. It's the way that we are gonna um, see and interpret and do the interpretation of things.
Mm-hmm.
And I always thought the hard times, they were good opportunities to grow up.
Hmm.
And these, I think, and I always believe in karma. So I was always like, that's why I had my daughter when I was super young. And I remember I bring this thoughts to my house, to my dad, like, I don't want to do anything because I don't want this karma. So let me keep. And my like, what are you talking about? Karma, you have 16. But it was always very, I don't know. I already had this sense of spirituality. I cannot talk about like it's not about religion. It was more like about what you do come back for you. So do your best here and embrace the things with love and compassion. And I think that was my it was something natural on me. It was not something that I forced it, but of course choices and what you read, the way you eat, the way you treat yourself, it's a lot of connected with your positive mind. That's what I think.
Wow. And this, I think, especially immigrant story, is something that a lot of people can relate to. My parents are immigrants, and they said the same thing. It's almost like they felt like they learned the best through difficult times, right? And if you can persevere, if you could just push through it, even if you make a big mistake, that mistake is going to teach you how to be a better person, how to be stronger mentally. So my dad is well known in my family for being extremely positive. Everything is good for one reason or another. And sometimes my mom is like, "Oh, that wasn't a good idea," and he's like, "Well, if you look at it that way," and then that bothers him. Like, "No, it was bad." He's like, "Well, maybe not completely bad." And so he has a very positive perspective on things, and you need that. And if you can almost program your mind, then even when something bad happens to you, you can see that there was something positive that came out of it. You're always searching for the positive in everything. That's very powerful.
Yes, but especially when you have kids, right?
Yeah.
Your dad, he immigrated and he had you, and
Yep.
he had to teach you something to you. So when you
Yeah.
have kids, you have to teach them like the
to
values of life. You have to be there and say like, let's grow. This is good. This is something that hurts, but we're gonna grow from here. And
Yeah.
I always try to be this type of woman and mother for my first child. That's why we have a really strong relationship, and it's beautiful. She's my biggest fan. She's like, "Oh, mom, I love it." She was in my first class with me, my first yoga class. She was so excited for me, all my transformation, and she was, and was a huge inspiration for her. Like, yeah, I could do it. And I was not your age, so you have like, you can do better choices than you can be better. Look how life is. So I
Wow.
think I could transfer this for my daughter, and this is something that I'm really happy and proud about it.
The world definitely looks different when you have children. And
Oh,
I have 5 kids, and every
oh my
child makes me look at the
god.
world in a little bit of a different way. And,
I can imagine.
3 boys and 2 girls, and the boys and girls, they all look at the world a little bit differently. It's just, yes, I can understand that. Everybody has a different perspective. And even when you're teaching them something that you thought was important to you, they always look at it a little bit differently and accept it into their life in a slightly different way. And then you'll learn something from that too.
Oh yeah, for sure. Our kids, they're great masters to our lives. That's what I think. Our kids, they are great masters for us because they teach us a lot about patience, tolerance, respect, and different perspectives. I
Yeah.
can see now. Then my daughter is 26, and I
You have a
just had a
26-year-old daughter. That
I
just
have
blows my
like,
mind.
yeah,
No one
mine
can
too.
look like you
Everybody's
and
like,
have a
oh.
26-year-old child. Oh my gosh. Okay.
She looks like my sister, but she's my daughter. I'm always the mom. And I had another baby. I have a 1-year-old at home right now. So it's crazy. I have like a 26 and a 15 months old baby now.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you are really young in so many ways. So that's amazing. Having a baby
I
makes
don't know
you
why.
forcing you to
It's
be
my
young.
life. It was my life.
That's amazing. So let's talk about your experience in yoga, and what kind of yoga did you train in?
I took a teacher training. My 500 hours I took at Yoga Works, and it's based in Hatha Yoga. Hatha
Mhm.
Yoga is the it's basically is the base for all types of yoga.
Mhm.
But then I start to teach Vinyasa Flow, which it's well known as a power yoga
Mhm.
too. It's Vinyasa and power yoga is kind of the same style. It's a freestyle, but you work with a lot of with sun salutations and all the stand poses. And I took a teacher train of yin yoga too. Then it's more um, peaceful yoga, which you hold the pose for a little longer, and you work more with the connective tissues and not with the muscles of the body. So I took a few teacher trainings after the 500 hours. I have almost 1,000 hours of teacher training now. But I'm very like, I became well known for my Vinyasa Flow classes and power yoga in the South Bay yoga community.
And I don't know very much about the yoga community. I mean, are there groups that meet together who speak about yoga or practice with each other, or is it just you go to conferences and you meet people? I mean, how does this work, a yoga community?
The yoga community, it's the people who practice yoga, the teachers, the masters. It's a community which embrace everybody who loves yoga. And you can meet people from all over the world, because there is yoga all over the world. But what I think we all have in common when I talk about yoga community, it's like people who are looking for self-acceptance, self-improvement, and they find yoga as a tool of self-knowledge and a source of growth.
So
that's what connects us.
So what is your, I guess, so it sounds to me like your perspective of physical health has a lot to do with spiritual or inner health as well. I mean, how in your yoga practice, how do you combine that?
When we study yoga, we learn the physical practice, we learn how to meditate, and it's like to quiet the mind. And we learn a lot about the philosophy of yoga. The philosophy of yoga it's based in the Yoga Sutras by Patanjali. And he gives us a lot of thoughts, like, let me give an example, like that is the 8 limbs of yoga. And then when you think about being a yogi, you think, oh, you go and you practice yoga, you have the mat, and you practice yoga and you have to practice ahimsa. What is ahimsa? Ahimsa, you don't harm anybody. So there is a philosophy behind of the asanas, the poses and everything you see. And when we teach yoga, we have to teach a little bit about the philosophy too. I can create a class with one of the topics then I have in the Yoga Sutras and mix them with the movements. So I can work with back bends and pose which you open your heart and work with the heart chakra and bring a little bit of the philosophy of yoga with the practice. So what I think is beautiful is when you can really, for me, yoga is like when you can really have all the mix together, not only the physical practice. When you finish the class and you go home and you feel them, something is different about you. Was the breath, was the thoughts that you had in the class, was the overcoming, was the expansion of your limits, and all the philosophy which resonate to you or which brings you something better, better perspective about your own self.
Wow. And actually, I really like that concept of your physical body and your inner self are connected. I think a lot of times people will separate it. So this is my spiritual or my emotional side, and this is my physical side, and they have to be separate. This is like I do meditation, and then separate from that, then I do exercise, and then I study or something. There's a lot of actual medical research out there right now that shows physical activity can influence how your brain develops. So for a child who is maybe sits at home on playing video games, their brain doesn't develop as well as a child who is more active or physically. And even as you get older, people who are more physically active are less prone to dementia and Alzheimer's disease, and people who are less physically active. So our mind and our body are definitely connected, and science has started to catch up and sort of see that. Is that something that you see a lot in your yoga practice? I mean, you probably see all kinds of people coming in your door, but what are the typically like things that you see changes in people when they start practicing?
Definitely your mind, your body, and even your energetic body, they are all connected. Because when you're practicing yoga, sometimes you're fighting in your mind, like, oh, am I gonna hold it? I'm so tired. Why she's speaking about the breath? You start with your mind, and then when you, okay, surrender and you let it be, and you go back to the body, you bring your presence back to the only place where life exists, then is in the present moment. So sometimes you go out of the present moment so much with your thoughts. So what I'm trying to say is, like, everything is connected. I took one teacher training that's called Yoga for Trauma Informed, and a lot of traumas, they are printed in our bodies. We have, sometimes oh no, this is not a trauma for me, it was just a situation. But then you feel something in your body, then it's telling you, this is bringing emotions, then you care for childhood or for something that was super painful for you. So what I think is, you can heal yourself from the inside to the outside, and from the outside to the inside. You can heal yourself in so many ways, and we have so many tools accessible for us. Even like drink this tea, the Fortune Delight is a healing process for me, because I think tea is something that really helps me to calm down, and it's part of my rituals. Oh, okay, I'm gonna have this podcast interview, let me prepare tea, have my tea. Sometimes when I'm gonna teach classes, let me have my tea and bring my tea, so I can be a little bit more calm. I have something that makes me feel more clear or more present. So we have so many tools, and I think yoga is a very powerful tool of healing, self-knowledge, and to connect you with all these three bodies: the physical body, the energetic body, and the mental body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely agree with that. You know, yoga is hard. I think people think it's just stretching, you know, but I mean, I can just see from you, you have your muscles and you're in shape doing yoga, because the poses, I like how you explained it, holding the pose, and your mind is arguing with itself, because it's hard to hold that pose in an uncomfortable way and just stay there and be calm. And that's very difficult. Sometimes when I do yoga, which I've been doing yoga for years, and I'm horrible at it. My wife just is so much better than I am, but I still like it. I feel good, but I know you're not supposed to make noises, but I make really weird noises when I'm holding some of the poses for a long time. It's very hard, but you're right. There's sort of this arguing where your mind is telling you just got to move. You got to stand up. You got to move that leg. Just got to get out of that position. But you are controlling this part of your brain, almost this part of your brain, this like natural, it's a natural tendency for somebody, if they feel uncomfortable, to get out of the way. But you are controlling that to the point where you feel at peace, even in an uncomfortable position, which is very difficult. And people who can do yoga at a high level, they always are very calm, because they're always in uncomfortable positions, and they have learned how to calm that part of themselves. It's amazing.
When you learn how to grow in the uncomfortable situations, how to grow, how to handle uncomfortable situations with a peaceful mind, or with the resilient mind, like thinking, okay, this is not gonna last forever, this is gonna end in one point, so I can stay, and let me try to make this a little bit better, even if it's uncomfortable. It's the higher goal when you are practicing yoga. It's even if it's hard, you make things being more the word's not comfortable, but more like in a way that you can, okay, I'm gonna make this, I'm gonna handle this and make this more, not comfortable, I don't know the word to say, but I can fit myself in this and make this something, then I'm gonna grow from here, or then I'm gonna uh, step out of my comfort zone, but I know that this is good for me. You know, I'm not in my comfort zone anymore. And when you get out of your comfort zone and you can really keep yourself calm, these reflect, this is gonna make a huge transformation in the way then you act with people outside of the mat. You know, you don't need to be a yogi only having a yoga mat and doing asana is beautiful asana. You have to be a yogi as the way that you treat people and you treat yourself. That's how I really recognize a yogi, or that's how I really see my masters. You know, there are people who I really like the advice, or they're calm, they're like us, they have problems, but they try to deal with the problems and with the hard situations in a most peaceful way. And that's something then I think the world needs this, especially after all this pandemic and all this stress and a collective trauma that we all came through together. We need to deal with our uncomfortable zone or like get out of our comfortable zone and be calm and keep the faith and the purpose to do something good, even coming from the really hard times.
Wow. So it feels like yoga and if it's your personal life philosophy fits very well with yoga in that, you know,
Definitely.
through some difficult times when you were young and you were put in an uncomfortable position, but you learned how to deal with it because you felt like, you know, if I can deal with it, I'm going to be in a better place. And that flows right into yoga, because I'm telling you, anybody who does yoga for more than an hour, it is it is very tough, and you do it all the time. And to be able to be calm in a very uncomfortable position is definitely something that takes training. But I think, especially today, being able to calm your mind in difficult circumstances, that's something that we can all learn how to do much better. I know I need to
Yes, I
do
agree.
better. It's, yeah.
I agree. And I think, as I said, yoga is one of the tools which is available, is accessible for everybody. You know, you don't need just to hire a therapist to be good and understand your thoughts and why things come through yourself. You can have different tools, and I think yoga and even like a balanced diet. You have so many tools which are accessible for you have a better lifestyle and living in a very healthy way.
And you mentioned diet. I mean, how is it? Do you have a very specific yoga diet, or what is your diet usually?
Since I was young, I was very interested in a diet too, in a way that I eat in the food that I eat, in being more natural with eating more fruits. And I stopped to eat red meat when I was more than 15 years ago. I was like, no, I don't know. It was nothing with yoga, was something with myself. I was like, I never felt good when I eat red meat. And then I stopped it. And then when I start my teacher training, that is one of the yoga sutras which mention ahimsa, that is non-violence, no harms. and no harms any beings, and these included the animals. And when I start to went a little bit more deep in my practice, I was like, I think it's for my body. I don't need chicken, fish, and any type of animals anymore. So I became plant-based. Um, and all in the whole process of becoming a yoga instructor, I became plant-based. So I've been without any type of meat for 6 years now, and I feel much better. I feel then I can see things in a more clear way. And this is,
or are you, do you, or
vegetarian.
so you eat
I
eggs or cheese or something?
Eggs and cheese I avoid, but sometimes eggs and cheese, sometimes honey, but I love agave. If I have, I'm gonna go in the agave. I don't drink milk, almond milk, oat milk. So I try to avoid, like, I could say then 80% of my diet's vegan, and maybe the 20% I'm still vegetarian because I'm gonna eat eggs or cheese.
Well, it's good to have other sources. Obviously, for me, Sunrider always talks about variety, and so having food from different sources is always important. But yeah, I mean, you obviously, your diet sounds like it's like a clean diet, and you look great. So you're obviously reaping a good benefit from having a good diet and obviously a good mindset. So. What?
Yeah, I think it's the mix of mindset, having like exercise, move your body, practicing yoga every day. I practice yoga every day. I try, even if I don't have time, I'm gonna make like 20. I say like, now that I have a 15 months old baby, you know how this works. It's so hard to practice, and sometimes I plug my AirPod on and I leave the baby with my husband, and I'm like, just 20 minutes, and it's chaotic. The baby's running, the dog is barking, and I'm doing my yoga practice for 20 minutes. So I always try to keep it up with my practice, because this makes me feel like more centered and more patient to deal with the motherhood with a 15 months old baby.
Wow. Well, that's amazing. So you have, that is a story, a 26-year-old and a 15-month-old.
Yes.
Not many people can say that. So.
I know. My dad always tells me that. My dad's like, this is so unique, Sabrina. I don't know how you met him. And I don't know too. That's my life. But I'm happy, even having a different type of life. I'm really happy with my kids and with everything that I'm active in my life.
Wow. So where can people follow you online? Are you on Instagram, or how do people usually follow you?
Yeah, people can find me on Instagram as Sabrina Mata, Mata, Sabrina Mata. And there you can see a little bit of my practice, because I share a little bit of my videos and my lifestyle. And you can see even my diet, and I'm drinking my Fruit and Delight tea. Then I love the peach one. That's what I'm drinking right now. Then it's really good for hydration. It's really good for when I practice yoga too, especially when I go to hot yoga. I like to take my tea with ice. It's perfect for hydration and to keep me with the energy in the flow.
Yeah, definitely. Wow. Okay. So everybody follow Sabrina
Mata
on Instagram. Yeah.
Or you can find my website too, sabrinamatayoga.com.
Oh,
and you can have a little bit
more. Website. Definitely check that out and learn a little bit more about how Sabrina practices her yoga. And I love how you put yoga into your own life philosophy. That sounds awesome. And anyways, we definitely have to talk again. I want to hear more about how your kids are growing up, because that sounds like by itself. So, but thank you for your time, and thanks for sharing your story. It's a very interesting story for sure.
Thanks so much, Dr. Ruben. Thank you for having me too.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. I'll see you.
Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you. Bye.